335 N54 powered with a rough idle, misfire and an engine light. You can feel the top of the engine, you can feel it just a little bit of a pulse there where it's just not, well, it's misfiring basically. Then there's the idle up, trying to stabilise things, and maybe able to even see it pulsing at the exhaust. See the DME here, and it actually is yellow, which means there's a fault code stored. Just wait for it to finish reading all the ECUs. Cylinder 6 misfire. Saying it is an existing code, so what we can do is we can go and get our SAE data off of that, full code description, details, and it is the standard P0306, so the 6 denoting that it is a cylinder 6 misfire, P0300 would be multiple misfire or random misfire, 301 cylinder 1, etc. So yeah, that's our full code. That's where we're going to be looking, cylinder 6. So we'll start pulling all the shrouds off and see what we can see. So I'm going to start pulling these trims off. It's just the usual 8mm bolts. 2 bolts there, 2 bolts there along the front. We'll pull these trims off, and then there's 2 bolts, 1 each side, and then we can pull this whole assembly out. We'll have to remove the wiring from the microfiber housing, and then we can have this off and we can get this engine cover off and get to cylinder 6, which is obviously the most rear cylinder. So now we're going to remove this engine cover, a load of 5mm Allen keys, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can remove this to help as well, just these E-Torques, one up inside here as well, someone's lost the cover, and then we'll be able to see the coil packs and also the injectors, so we can actually get some details off of those too. There we go with the engine cover off. We can look down and we can see this is cylinder 6 coil pack, and the injector is next to it. Now one of the first things we're going to just check is the number on the side of the injector. I can see from here that it's a number 6 at the end of the part number, indicating it's an index 6 injector, and they're all index 6. You can see that's a 6 at the end of that down there. So see that's 60-06, that's the end of the part number. That's -06 is the index number of the injector. So when people talk about N54 index numbers of injectors, that's what that number is. That's how you find it. And index 6 is an old injector basically. Index 11 and 12 is the ones that are deemed okay by BMW on their technical bulletin. So when there's misfires and stuff, they tell you to, you know, at least check this and whatnot. But we're going to go down the route of pulling this ignition coil out, maybe check the spark plug when it's out. I'm going to move it to another cylinder. We'll probably move it somewhere random, like number 2 or something. Run the engine again with the coil pack on number 2, and if the cylinder misfire moves to number 2, then we know it's the coil pack. Keep it simple. Simple test that anyone could do at home. Yeah, so we'll start there. So we're just going to flip the lid up the bat, which undoes the connector, and then if there's a hole here we can hook our finger through, pull it out. I like to give the coils a bit of a smell just to see if there's anything obvious with regards to burning smells or anything. We can see, looking at these coils, there are some differences between them. They're all a bit of a mix and match. This one's got this white face on it, that one's different, that one's different, that one's different. So it looks like these ones are all original. This one looks like the white one, but it's black. So it all looks like it's a bit of a mix and match of ages of coil packs really, so which is pretty standard. So you can see there, look at the difference between the two. This one's a Bosch one, this one's a Delphi. So the Delphi is the one that's installed, which is an aftermarket one, so it's not actually a Bosch is what would be fitted from factory. I don't know if this is a genuine BMW 2015, that's dated. That's cylinder 2, we'll stick that down to cylinder 6. So this Delphi will stick into cylinder 2. So Bosch is what should be in there. Not that it really matters too much for the brand, but just gives you that idea that something is amiss, say. Let's see what this one is. Delphi again. So those two are Delphi. Delphi is normally what you see on, say, Land Rovers, and I think you see them on Mercedes every now and again. It's not a bad brand. It's just it's not what's meant to be in the car, which might give us a bit of an idea of maybe suspect parts have been replaced in the past. I don't know. Anyway, we're just here to prove a point. That's now the Bosch core pack at the back. We've got Bosch again, Bosch, Delphi, Delphi, Bosch. So we'll see if we can move it to cylinder 2. If not, we'll maybe pull the plugs out and have a look. So it is now running again, and it is still misfiring, running a bit rubbish. Like, you know, it's not going to magically fix itself unless there was something we disturbed connection wise. Give it a rev, you can still hear it. So what we're going to do is we'll restart the vehicle test, which will basically rescan the ECUs and see if we've logged another code. We might not log it until we take the car down the road. Otherwise we might try and look at misfire counters. There we go, it's running a bit lumpy now. So let's just bring up the full codes. Still logging cylinder 6, saying it's not now a present code. What I'm probably going to do is clear the codes and then try again. So that's cleared the codes. The engine light is now off. We'll see if we can get it to trigger. I can feel the thing misfiring, so we might get it to trigger. There we go, engine light is now on, so we've logged the code. So we'll now go start vehicle test again. Codes, cylinder 2 misfire, so it's moved with the coil. Cylinder 2 misfire, existent, yes. We'll bring up the SAE codes just for anyone's reference. You can then see that it goes P0302, so that 2 meaning that it is cylinder 2, simple as that. So there we go, we need to put an ignition coil in that, and that's going to fix this car. We'll have a look at the service history and just check that the spark plugs don't need doing also. You know, worn spark plugs can put a lot more load on an ignition coil. It's a larded gap for the ignition spark to jump. So yeah, we'll look at the service history. When we replace that coil, maybe look to see if the spark plugs are worn also. So just to prove a point, we've got the new Bosch one. It's a slightly different colour shroud around it, but so here's what it looks like. That's another one I'm going to put in place of this other Delphi one, just to get rid of the Delphis out of it. So for proof of point, we're just going to run it now with that Bosch in there and just show that the misfire is now gone. So the engine light will probably, oh no, it's actually extinguished itself straight away. So what we'll do is we'll just clear the codes and give it a rev just to prove that there's nothing. Hear how much better that sounds. A little bit of a misfire there though still. just deleted the fault codes. Just a little bit of a pop and bang there. I think we will be pulling those spark plugs out and just rechecking them. It's just a little bit of a blip at idle, so there's no codes in it now. If we just look at this RPM, it's reasonably stable, and it's just got a bit of a bob every now and again. So we'll just check the spark plugs as well. We know those injectors are old, but I don't want to just replace them for the sake of it. It's done a lot smoother now. We'll just have those spark plugs out, or just look in the book, see if there's anything obvious. So we've got 95,000 kilometres on this thing. The spark plugs were apparently done at 71,000, reference the service book. So we're just looking in the Bosch spark plug book. This is for Australia, so it might not be any use for anyone anywhere else in the world. We've got a 335 coupe N54, and it's saying we should have Bosch ZGR6 STE2 plugs. Now the reason I'm looking at this is because I've seen someone put N54 plugs in an N55, and then it's caused a misfire. So if we look at, where is a N55, F10, N55, completely different number for the spark plugs. So they will fit one into the other. They both have that same very thin thread with the, I think it's a 14mm 12-point socket to undo them. This is just a completely different plug. So we'll just check the number on this and compare it to what we saw. I think it is the right number. ZGR6STE2. ZGR6STE2. I've just got the camera down the spark plug tube, just down the back here with the, so you can see that's looking in through the spark plug hole into the cylinder. And what we're looking for is any signs of wetness or anything like that on top of the piston, indicating, say, that there is fuel leaking from the injectors. Nothing obvious. We're not going to get too in depth with this, just something that's always handy to show. I've seen them before where they do have leaking injectors and are real rough running when they've got the old style injectors like this does. And you look at the piston crown, and as soon as you switch the engine off and pull the plug, you just see vapour coming out of the cylinder, out of the spark plug tube, and you put a camera down and it just it's just fuel on the top of the piston basically. So there's 23 Newton meters on these spark plugs, so we're going to torque those up. We will like the coil pack back in now. We torqued our spark plug back up, and we'll take it for a drive and see what the drivability and what it's like once it's got some heat into it.